Hello again, everyone. Welcome back. In this technical analysis of the stock market video, I call it a break in the pattern, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes as we focus on the S&P 500 this week. We'll show what's been going on with the price action here, take a look at the Elliott Wave picture on the SPX, talk about the McClellan Summation Index and what is it showing us. Take a look at TLT, the Long-Term Treasury Bond ETF, and the 10-year yield, which really over the last couple of days has skyrocketed, and the dollar index. And then we'll conclude by taking a look at the Bitcoin ETF, GBTC, and Ethereum, ETHE. All right, let's start off here with the weekly view of the Dow, the S&P 500, and the NASDAQ Composite. The Dow Industrials for the week was up 213 points. And you could see it was a lot lower and it crawled its way back up. And then the S&P 500 was up 22.5. And the NASDAQ Composite a little weaker at the close, only 3.73 points at the close. So that is the picture. Let's take a look and start off here with a look at the, I actually want to go here. I'll come back to that Elliott Wave picture in a minute. Here's what I want to talk about. So this is a daily view of the SPX and all the way back into the end of 2019, 2020. So several things on here. The first thing, the first lower low on a multi-day pullback since March of 2020. Okay, since back over here. So this whole bull move. Every time you went to a higher high and you got a correction, the correction on a multi-day pullback, and I'm not talking about just 1 or 2 days, it was at a higher low. So higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher low. Didn't go to a higher high here, but you still did not take out the low. Higher highs, higher lows. It just kept this whole sequence up until now. Here we had a multi-day pullback, higher highs, we went to lower lows for the first time. So now, what's on my radar screen? We got a snapback, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. But if this rolls over this coming week and takes out Monday's low and comes down and takes out this July low, watch out if we start to take out that July low. It could really start to accelerate. Okay, so that is the first thing that jumped out at me. The second thing, the oversold that happened here on the RSI is the most oversold that we got. We had one little blip here, not quite as deep as what happened this last week. One little blip back in late October of last year. Other than that, nothing else has gotten as deep and as oversold as what just happened this last week. So in this whole move again since March of 2020. Okay, the other thing that's jumped out at me, when I look at the RSI levels in here, it's interesting how, you know, back in the end of 2019 into 2020, the highs up in here, you know, you kept pushing to higher highs and the RSI wasn't confirming it. You know, push number 1, push 2, and push 3, and then that was all she wrote. Well, here we got a similar type thing going on. So I think this is a big red flag. You know, we got a push here, pull back, higher high, pull back, higher high, right here into the September, beginning of September. And the RSI did not confirm those last pushes in here. And then we got this hard pullback. So right now we're on, alert for continued selling. Now, what am I watching? What happened here this last Thursday, Friday? We closed back above the blue line. What's the blue line? The blue line is my 10 exponential moving average. When you get above that blue line, most times, if you break the high of that 2-day sequence, you get continuation to the upside. Like here, like here, like here, like here. You didn't break the 2-day high right here, and you rolled back over. So many times that happens. Now, I'll tell you that you can go back. I'm going to go back and I'll show you one here in the last 3 years where that didn't happen. and then I'll pop back into this. Let's go to the end of 2018 where it really played with you, okay? You get this hard sell-off, and here you get closing above the 10. You think, well, maybe that's all she wrote, and we're getting ready to go again, and then it breaks back down. Well, that little fake out wasn't just enough. They did it again, and then they hammered it into December, and the worst Christmas Eve day ever recorded. Okay, so we'll see what happens this coming week. Do we break this sequence and continue to push, or do we roll back over? Now, what's interesting about Friday, we had a higher close on the Dow and the S&P 500, but there were more declining stocks than advancing stocks on the New York Stock Exchange, and there was more down volume than up volume on Friday. So this wasn't a very strong move at all. So just something to be aware of, okay? I want to take a look at this summation index. Well, actually, let's go to the blue scenario first. We'll look at this summation index. So here's the most optimistic scenario. The most optimistic scenario says, well, hey, we're just in a big corrective pattern right now, and I think we've got more to come. You know, I just don't think we're done. We haven't come very deep. So of this big wave 3, if this is truly was the wave 3 here, as I've got it labeled, we haven't even gone 23.6% in terms of a corrective move, much less a normal target I would have for a wave 4 of 38.2. So we'll watch and see what unfolds. The most bearish count says that that high on September 2nd was the high, and that we're into a bear market potentially. Now, you know, I'm not going to, this is just the other count. This is the most bearish near-term count. This is the most optimistic, okay, right here. So we'll see how the wave count just starts to unfold and see what kind of, how the breadth and the volume unfolds with the wave count, okay? So, well, you know, people look at that and say, well, Joe, why are you talking about the two different scenarios? Which one do you like? Well, you know, I like them both depending on what the market's doing and what the market is telling us. So right now, you know, you got to sit back and say, well, so far, we're just in correction mode. We'll see how severe this correction decides to get and how the wave structure unfolds. But why do I tell you about this? To make you aware that this is a possibility also, okay? So it's one of those things where you got to sit back and say, hey, there are two possibilities going on here. Which one is going to unfold? That's what we're looking for. Okay, so that's the Elliott Wave picture. Back to the moving average view. You know, we've got these things I just talked about. Let's take a look at the summation index. Okay. Now, the summation index is accumulation of the McClellan oscillator. Now, look where we're sitting. We're sitting here at right about 422. It's not giving me the information. Let's see if it cooperates. No, it's not. I could tell you, here we go. So this is Wednesday's reading on September 22nd, which is Wednesday. We ticked up just slightly Thursday, Friday, but Wednesday's reading is the lowest reading on this indicator since back over here in March, I think it was March 6th. Yeah, March 6th was slightly lower right before it broke below zero and the selling really intensified, okay? And you can see that this indicator has not been below zero since that whole bout of selling that occurred back then, okay? This is the zero line. Now, you know, the other time that that happened is back to that 2018. And let me just go back over there. I need to scroll real quick to show you. Okay, here's the fall of 2018. Here's October. And then here's December. So you can see what happens when we start to break zero and how the selling intensifies. So we're very close. So this is definitely on my radar screen too. And we're watching this to see what happens. Okay, let's take a look at TLT. Here's the moving average view of TLT, down $1.45 on Friday. Pretty strong break, and it broke this trend line. it just reinforces the picture that I've had here on the Elliott Wave picture, which is expecting a further move down, one last fifth wave. If this plays out like expected, now this has really been very frustrating, I got to tell you. I mean, over the last couple of months, it's just I'm starting to wonder whether it was really going to break down or not, and now it looks like we're finally getting it. This implies that the 10-year yield and the interest rates are going to head up if we continue to get that kind of selling, and here's what the 10-year yield's doing. See what happened on Thursday, Friday? And we're sitting up here at 1.46%, okay, on the 10-year yield. And, you know, I had this zone back up here earlier in the year, in March and April. I had this zone created because I really thought we were going to consolidate and continue pushing above and approach the 2% level. We just never did. We broke down, as you know. So right now, watching to see how fast and how quick do we attack and come back up and attack those levels up here. But that is what's going on with, and it's interesting that with the 10-year yield, and what's interesting is, you know, here was the Federal Reserve meeting on Wednesday, and then all of a sudden it was like a delayed reaction, and we got the explosion on Thursday and Friday. Okay, so what's going on with the dollar index? Let's go over here, and here is, let's see. Okay, here's my preferred count, and mainly because this thing has just acted very, very strong over the last month. So right now, I am hanging with the scenario that says this is in bullish mode and coming off, you know, the low that happened back here in January, and that we're working our way higher. And so far, it's accommodating this scenario. Now, I need to see it take out this high of 93.73 and keep pushing, but that's what I'm looking for. Okay, so that's what's going on with the dollar index. And let's take a look at Bitcoin. I want to look at the Bitcoin ETF, GBTC. This is a daily view. Now, I'm counting this in a bullish mode. I'm looking at a fifth intermediate wave here up. I'm looking at in the minor waves, expecting a third wave to start soon. I just don't think the second minor wave is done yet. Now, and we haven't pulled back. We've pulled back 38.2%, but typically on a wave two, the target is a 50 to 61.8. The other interesting thing about where this 50% pullback lines up is it lines up right in here. And let me take it off the semi-log for a minute just to get the 50% in these things a little more accurate with the math. You know, sometimes the log will distort that a little bit. So here's the picture in terms of the wave two. We pull back 32.6 is 50%. Okay, we almost got there this last week. But down here at the top of this gap, okay, what's the top of the gap? 31.37, and the low here, 31.62. So we could have a little bit more to go. What I'm watching to see is if we come up and break this trend line, this thing could pop, and we could be off and running on a wave two. It could then, you know, tell us, I mean a wave three, sorry, but that could tell us the wave two is done. So we'll keep an eye on that, see if we get support at the top of this gap, or does it actually come down in and take out and close the gap? That'd be a pretty big move to come all the way down here. We'll see what happens. Let's take a look at Ethereum. I've got Ethereum in the same kind of mode in here in terms of a wave two pullback, working on the third wave, and I've got this as the wave two is underway, new wave two. There we go. I was going to say, come on, give it to me. And let me take it off a semi-log so we get the percentages working correctly also. And this has retraced almost 50%. We'll watch and see if it wants to turn and go. I mean, you can see how it gapped down at the open. Friday, what was the big news? Of course, China came out and, you know, China hammered cryptocurrencies again, said that all cryptocurrencies are illegal in China. So we'll see what happens after that kind of a move on Friday, but it came back kind of strong here during the day. So we'll see if we get some continuation, and you know, looking for this either to bottom with Friday's low or a little bit more pullback. So we'll see how this plays out. Okay, that's the picture on GBTC and Ethereum, and that's the picture on the markets. We'll see. Let me go back and end with the picture of SPX, and let's go to the moving average view, and we'll see if this wants to continue pushing or does it roll back over and take out Monday's low. All right, that's it for this week. If you felt like the video was helpful, give it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, hit that little subscriber button. If you like more of this kind of information on a regular basis, head on over to joehenches.net. Check out the website, check out the membership. We'll talk to you on the next video. Everyone have a great week.